Setting the scene. First, here's the lay of the land. XYZ Co. is a typical Canadian mid-sized company. The staff of 60 or so people are CEP members, and all are part of the same collective bargaining unit, Local ABC.
If we look at this chart, we can...
There are about a dozen people on the management side. Like so many companies facing tough economic times, the company is fighting hard to stay in business. As a consequence, management is generally pretty jumpy. They're watching the bottom line, and they're watching their backs as well. Some members of the management team have been heard talking about imminent job cuts as a way of solving the financial issue. They've hinted, without saying it in so many words, that employees had better be on their toes or there will be consequences. Teresa has been with the company for 7 or 8 years and does general support work in the head office. She's competent, experienced, and a hard worker, but she's recently agreed to perform a number of tasks not on her job spec for her supervisor, Mr. Jones, whose secretary has been on maternity leave. Teresa has simply assumed she'd get upgrading pay for this extra work. A logical assumption, since the collective agreement clearly states that doing this work means getting paid at the higher wage. When Teresa sends the appropriate form to Mr. Jones with a request for the upgrade pay, he storms out of his office to confront her. Jones is visibly upset and challenges her with words like, "You're asking for more than you're entitled to," and "It's not Christmas, you know." When Teresa tries to discuss the matter in a civilized way, Jones throws his hands up, walks away from the discussion, claiming to be late for lunch, and embarrassing Teresa in front of co-workers with his display of anger. Mr. Jones's reaction seems way out of line. Teresa is visibly upset. As Teresa composes herself, co-workers circle her desk, knowing from the tone of the argument that this is something out of the ordinary. One asks Teresa to tell her what has just happened, and Teresa begins by saying that she's in a state of shock and can't believe what Mr. Jones has just said and done. She carefully explains that she had sent in the appropriate form for 2 weeks of temporary upgrading, but that Mr. Jones has flat out refused to pay, stating that to do so would be against company policy. This revelation gets Teresa's co-workers upset too, and one says, "That can't be true. He paid me for 2 weeks last year. Teresa, are you sure that's what he said?" Another co-worker, Christine, stands up for her, saying that she had heard every word of the discussion. She also adds that she couldn't believe how belligerent Mr. Jones had been. The group continues the discussion, and it becomes clear to Teresa from their comments that she'd better consider filing a grievance. Teresa doesn't feel much better. Partly because she's not even sure she's got grounds for a grievance, and partly because the idea of stirring the pot doesn't appeal to her at all. Still, Teresa is convinced that this is a very unfair situation, and her co-workers agree. The production side of the company office is a pretty noisy environment. Maria, the CEP steward, has been trying for a long time to get working conditions improved. In the meantime, one of her co-workers yells across the room that a phone call has come in for her. It's Teresa, who has summoned up the courage to make the call, and is doing so on her cell phone in a stairwell. Maria tries to communicate with Teresa, but the office noise around her is too much. She suggests that the two meet in the lunchroom right away and find a quiet spot to talk. Maria hangs up and negotiates with her supervisor, telling him there is a union matter that she has to look into right away, and assuring him that this first discussion will only take about 20 minutes. Maria has to repeat her request several times before her supervisor hears it clearly. Since Maria has been a steward for about 3 years, he's used to these kinds of occasional workflow interruptions and knows very well that Maria always makes up for time spent on union business by ensuring her work is caught up or covered. She heads out, shaking her head and wondering why she has to say everything twice. In the lunchroom, Maria is struck by how upset Teresa is. She wants Mr. Jones to be fired on the spot, and Maria notices her hands shake as she holds her coffee. Maria does her best to break the ice and calm Teresa down a bit by suggesting perhaps a trial, then a hanging, but hinting that a bit of process might be a good thing. She asks Teresa to spell out exactly what has happened. Teresa is still stuck on Jones' rudeness, with good reason, but she's not ready yet to tell Maria what has happened. After going on about wanting to wring his neck for a couple more minutes, Teresa's whole attitude changes. As the anger goes away, her resolve and even her desire to talk about the matter seem to disappear like air out of a balloon. She shrugs her shoulders and tells Maria that she wonders if there's any point in proceeding. She indicates she doesn't think Maria can do anything about the situation. Maria sticks to her guns and asks Teresa again what has happened. Teresa's still not giving her the story, complaining that Jones gets away with murder all the time. Maria chuckles, looks up, asks the ceiling fan if there is anyone who can simply tell her what's going on. She looks at Teresa and tells her she's down to her last chance to give Maria some details, otherwise she won't be able to do anything about it. Sensing that Teresa is going to calm down, Maria pulls out a notebook and a pencil and listens as Teresa recounts that she has been denied upgrade pay after having done full secretarial duties for 2 weeks during the absence of Jones's regular assistant. She details Jones's outbursts when he had been asked to sign the request for the upgrade. Teresa leaves out almost nothing. Maria finds out that Christine is the name of the co-worker who had stuck up for Teresa immediately after the confrontation. Maria and Teresa talk about the concept of putting Christine's name down as a witness. At this point, Mr. Jones walks up to Maria and Teresa, holding a mug of coffee in his hand. Sarcastically, he asks, Well, what do we have here?" Maria doesn't take the bait and evenly replies that what is here are 2 women, a table, 2 chairs, 2 mugs of coffee. Jones backs off and leaves the coffee shop, shaking his head and muttering, as usual, all bravado and not much else. Teresa is instantly upset again, declaring that she wants to get Jones. Maria calms her down by correcting her, reminding her that what she wants is to get paid for the work she has done. Teresa simply states, "I want to file a grievance." Maria agrees that that's the logical step, but indicates that the 2 of them need to speak to Jones together. Teresa resists, but Maria reassures her that with her presence, Jones may be significantly more reasonable. Teresa is sure that this meeting will not work, but Maria insists, telling Teresa that they have to give this approach a try. They agree and head back to the shop.